Well, hey everybody, welcome to Vertical Church Online. Wherever you're participating from, we are so glad that you are here this morning. If it's your first time today or first time in a while, or whether you're a regular here at VC, we just want you to know that we love you and we're so glad you can be part of our church family today. I believe God has a word for you this morning to encourage you, to build your faith, to remind you of who you are, to build hope in your heart. So let me encourage you over the next few moments. Let's put aside the distractions, the things that might rob us of encountering God, of hearing His voice today, and let's lean in because I believe God wants to speak to us this morning. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, as always, just share this and like this. It would mean the world to us, and it goes a long way to share the word about what God is doing right here at Vertical Church. So just take a minute right before we jump into worship today, click that share button, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell, get notifications on Facebook. You can click the bell or the three dots and actually get notifications anytime we go live or anything we post goes right to the top of your news feed. Of course, if you're on Church Online today, we would love to engage you in the chat window. We can pray for you right there, and if there's any way that we can serve you, we would love to do that today. So come on, let's lean in over the next few moments and join me however you're comfortable, wherever you're at right now, and let's go into worship together.
Out of the grave, break into the wild, and don't be afraid. Run into wide open spaces, grace is waiting for you. Dance like the weight has been lifted, grace is waiting. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Come out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. For the Spirit is here, let there be freedom. All of your burdens, bring all of your scars. Come back to communion, come back to the stone, and run into wide open spaces. Grace is waiting for you. Dance like the weight has been lifted. Grace is waiting. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Come out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. Where the Spirit is here, let there be freedom. Prison shake at the sound of Jesus' name, and lives made whole Hearts awake at the sound of Jesus' name. Oh, chains will fall, prison shake at the sound of Jesus' name. And lives made whole, hearts awake at the sound of Jesus' name. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Come out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. Where the Spirit is, here let there be freedom. Let there be freedom. Ooh, yeah. Let there be freedom. Oh, tense like the weight has been lifted. Grace is waiting. Oh, tense like the weight has been lifted. Grace is waiting. Oh, tense like the weight has been lifted. Grace is waiting. Come on. Oh, tense like the weight has been lifted. Grace is waiting. Come on. Oh, tense like the weight has been lifted. Grace is waiting. Oh, tense like the weight has been lifted. Oh, grace is waiting. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom, there is freedom. Come out of the dark, just as you are, into the fullness of His love. Where the Spirit is, here let there be freedom. Let there be freedom. Let there be I know the tension of the now. I don't always understand. I don't always get to see everything. When I am holding up my hands, when I'm counting every breath, Lord, all I need to know is you choose me. You choose me. I'll praise before my breakthrough, till my soul becomes my triumph. I will sing because I trust you. I will bring my heart, I will lift my soul. When I'm listening for your voice and I'm shutting out the noise, I know that you will speak clearly. When I'm living out my faith, when I'm stepping on the sea, I know you take my hand and walk with me. Walk with me. I'll praise before my I'll sing because I trust you. Yeah. I will worship because I trust you. And I will bring my heart. I will lift my soul. I will bring my heart. I lift my soul. And I will bring my heart. Lift my soul.
Well, welcome again to Vertical Church Online. My name is Josh. I'm the lead teaching pastor here at VC, and I just want to give a great big how you doing today. How are you doing? Why don't you leave a comment down below and let us know how your day's going. How did your week go? Drop something interesting that happened in your week. Maybe it was something one of your kids said. Maybe it was something one of your kids did. All right, but just drop it down in there. We'd love to hear that. Well, if this is your first time today, thank you so much for joining us. It is incredible that you're here with us, and we are so thankful to worship with you today. I want to invite you to do something. Would you follow, subscribe, turn on notifications, whatever that looks like on the platform that you're on. On Facebook, you can like this post, but you can also share it, and you can follow Vertical Church on Facebook. If you click the 3 buttons, you can also get notifications anytime we go live, and even pin our post right to the top of your newsfeed. We love sharing things throughout the week that just brighten your day, to make you laugh. That's a win for us. If we can make you laugh in the middle of all of this, that is huge. But also, we want to encourage your faith, encourage your growth in your relationship with Jesus, and we want to do that as best we can. So click those buttons, follow, share, turn on notifications, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. During this season, during this whole coronavirus COVID-19 time, we really want to focus on 3 things. The first one is to give you encouragement in your faith, right? And so one of the ways we do that is every Monday through Friday evening at 7 p.m. If you're on Facebook, right here on Facebook, we meet for a time of prayer and devotion. And it's meant to encourage you, to encourage your faith, to get you into a regular routine of praying every day, or at least 5 times a week. So that's one thing that we're focused on. The other thing, number 2, is making a difference in Hampton Roads. We want our church to be known for something, and so we want to make a difference. And 2 ways that we're doing that. One is through our initiative called Flag 757. If you've never heard of it, let me give you kind of the Reader's Digest version. Basically, we invite people to give money to the Flag 757 fund, and from that fund, we purchase meals through local 757 restaurants to be delivered or to be dropped off at frontline area workplaces. This week alone, we have dropped food off at a fire station, twice to a police precinct, and to an ICU team in Norfolk. And so that's just incredible. Last week I challenged you. I said I'd love to come back today and say that we've raised $2,000 for this fund. And guess what? We are like $40 away from $2,000. That is incredible. Thank you so much for supporting this initiative. You are making a difference in Hampton Roads. The second way you can do that is next Saturday, we have our blood drive through the American Red Cross. It goes from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and it's hosted right at our location at Apple Tree Learning Center. So, if you haven't signed up to give blood and you're healthy enough to give blood, would you take a moment today? A post is going to drop later today on our Facebook page. You've got the link in emails. We want to fill up every appointment that we have so that we can make the most of this blood drive. Again, it's May 2nd, Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The third thing we're focused on is just staying connected. One of the ways we're doing that is on our online small groups. I know that might be a little bit different, and it is, but I'm in an online small group. We're going through the book of Philippians, and it's just been an incredibly awesome opportunity. Really, even the material's great, but just connecting and talking to other people is worth it all. So today, I want to challenge you. Go to verticalchurch.tv/groups, and you can see what small groups that we're offering right now online. Maybe the Lord's challenging you to come together and make a group happen on yourself and lead a group, host a group. We've got material for you if that's what's happening. Any information you want, I tell you, let's make this really easy. Drop the word groups in the comments down below. We'll follow up with you to see if you want to join a group, want to know what groups we have available, or maybe even lead a group yourself. Now, those three things are all possible because so many of you give to Vertical Church. You help financially support the ministry. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for that. I want to share with you three ways that you can give. And the first one is really easy. Just text a dollar amount to 84321. A dollar amount, 84321. If you've never done it before, it'll walk you through several steps on how to get that set up. And then in the future, you just text the dollar amount to the number, and it happens automatically. You can also go to vcgive.tv. This is how I give. I've set up recurring giving online to happen on the 2nd and 16th of every month. And so you can do that, vcgive.tv. You can also give through the Church Center app. Download the app, connect it to Vertical Church, open it up, and there's a giving link right there. Well, if you're joining us for the first time, a big shout out to you, a big special welcome. Drop the word new down in the comments below. We want to connect with you and find out how we can help you experience the presence of God in your life today. If you would like for somebody to pray for you, drop the word prayer down in the comments. One of our amazing team members will engage you and pray for you. If you're a church online, there's actually a little live prayer button. If you click that, one of our people will jump in there and pray with you right on there. So with that, let's go into, we've been doing this for a couple weeks. Let's go into our 30-second coffee break. When we come back from that, we'll jump into the message. Welcome back. Hopefully you've got your coffee refilled and you're ready to jump in to the Word today. One of the most dramatic moments in human history happened in a random room in Jerusalem about 2,000 years ago. Jesus and his friends were gathering together for their last meal. It was the Passover meal. And if you're not familiar with what Passover is, it's the annual meal that Jewish families gather together to eat to commemorate the night before they left Egypt, the night before God delivered their ancestors from Egyptian slavery. The Passover meal was a meal to remember God's faithfulness after 400 years of what looked like God's absence. Think about that, 400 years where the Jewish people lived as slaves, 400 years of praying and seeking after God. Come on, like we've been in COVID-19, 7 weeks? And it already feels like we can't take another week. But the Jewish people, 400 years of slavery, 400 years of harsh treatment. And finally, God sent a deliverer by the name of Moses. And Moses stands up to the most powerful man on the planet, Pharaoh, and he says, "Let God's people go." And it's this dramatic moment, and God delivers the people. And then 1,400 years later, Jesus is sitting in this room with his friends, his disciples, and they're celebrating that event. They're commemorating that event with this meal. But the disciples are a bit distracted. They're a little bit perplexed. You see, things aren't going well. They've been following Jesus for a while, and his popularity was so high. Crowds would follow Jesus. But now what's happened is his popularity has diminished. And in fact, the gospel writers, some of them note that for Passover, they didn't go into Jerusalem by day. No, they stayed out in the country until nightfall because it was almost like they had to sneak in order to celebrate Passover. And there was all this secrecy around where they were going to eat this meal. In fact, it's this really interesting story. Jesus didn't even tell them where to go. He just said, go into town and you're going to meet a guy and you're going to ask this, where's the Lord's Supper prepared, and he's going to take you to this place, and that's where you make preparations. It was this ridiculous moment where they had to kind of sneak and hide around. But the truth is, man, the disciples, they understood the need for the secrecy because they all knew there was this growing momentum to have Jesus arrested. And what's more, he kept talking about his death. Like, that's weird, right? Like, he kept talking about his death, and then one of us, his name's Judas, man, he's really acting strange. Judas has been acting weird lately. So here's the scenario, right? They had all this certainty that they had grown familiar with, the popularity, the people chanting and cheering Jesus' name, and all of a sudden, all of that certainty that they had grown familiar was gone. It was just gone. And on this evening, they had more questions than they had answers. And as they gathered for this meal, things got really tense. If you have a Bible, I want you to open it up to Mark chapter 14. Mark chapter 14. Today's passage really probably works better before Easter, but I think it's really going to hit home right where we're at in this season. Mark chapter 14 verses, let's start with verse 17 and we'll go all the way through verse 26 eventually. You know how we roll here at VC. So Mark chapter 14, here we go. When evening came, Jesus arrived with the 12. While they were reclining at the table, he said, "Truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me." Now, since Jesus was never wrong, you know that got their attention. Like, this didn't come as good news. They're like, wait a second, wait, one of us is going to betray you? And Jesus goes on, he says, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me. Verse 19, they were saddened, right, disappointed, and one by one they said to him, "Surely you don't mean me?" Now, come on, I want you to notice something here. Nobody said, "Jesus, what are you talking about? Jesus, what are you even, betray you to whom, Jesus?" Because they knew. They had heard the rumors. They knew something was up. They were just hoping it. They were hoping two things. One, it's not me. And two, maybe it won't really happen. Maybe this is the time when Jesus will be wrong. But they knew. They knew the moment Jesus started heading towards Jerusalem that something was up. They even described it. They were like, it was like he was walking into a trap. And so Mark continues going. Verse 20, he says, "It is one of you," Jesus says, "one who dips bread into the bowl with me. The Son of Man will go. The Son of Man will depart. He'll leave. He'll withdraw just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Now let's pause right there, because most of what we find in this book was written in an environment of extreme uncertainty. most of what was written in this book, this book is not filled with like good messages for a world that we don't live in. Like, it's not just feel good messages, if that makes sense. It's stories of great trial, of difficulty, of shipwrecks, of betrayals, of famine. It's all of this real life stuff. And in here, we find God actively speaking and directly moving in uncertain times. Come on, think about it. Those of you who are familiar with the Bible, let's just go through kind of a bunch of stories. Think about Joseph. You know Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Joseph and the dreams and all of that. Joseph found himself one day in the bottom of a pit as he listened to his brothers argue whether or not they were going to sell him or kill him. Right? Like, Joseph is in the bottom of the pit and he hears, well, should we sell him or should we kill him? Well, I say kill him. Well, I say sell him. Well, I think we should kill him. Well, we're going to sell him. Well, all right, we'll sell him. Well, we'll sell him to those people right there. Now, I know some of you have had some serious sibling rivalry. And I know some of you, you got in trouble because your brother did that thing and you got grounded for it and you didn't get to play in the ball game, and or your sister stole your sweater and wore it and got the big stain on it, and you've had your fights. I don't think you've had a fight like Joseph had. And yet what we discover in this book is that God was with him the whole time. Man, think about David. Think about King David, anointed king over Israel, and yet he's on the run because Saul wants to take his life. And then that all gets worked out. Like that gets, figured out. And David's on the throne and everything's going fairly well. He's had his moments and he's been restored. But then one morning he wakes up to the rumor that his own son was conspiring against him. And so the king who was on run in the past has to go on the run again. And yet we discover, guess what? God was right there. Think about Moses. Think about Moses' mom. This frightened mom wraps her baby in a blanket and puts him in a basket so that Egyptian soldiers don't kill him. It's as if Moses' mom thought, well, if it's the crocodiles or the soldiers, I'll take my chances with the crocodiles. And then, of course, oddly enough, Mary, the mother of Jesus, centuries later, we see another mom fleeing with her son, escaping the sword of a tyrant ruler. Except this time, instead of running from Egypt, she runs to Egypt. Think about the Apostle Paul. Man, he knew God had called him. He knew he was anointed by God, and yet there he sat in a Roman prison. And from there, he writes letters about what to do when the promises of God don't seem to be coming true, don't seem to be active and working in your life. Come on, friend, like if there was ever a time to pick up this book or to pull out the app, YouVersion app on your phone, it's right now. The Bible is the perfect place to go in times of uncertainty, because it's filled with story after story after story of God's people facing uncertain times and discovering that not only is God not absent, he's diligently working and accomplishing his will in the world and in the lives of those that he loves. You see, it's in these pages we are reminded time and time and time again that he's still got the whole world in his hands. And we're challenged. We're challenged to trust him, even when it's hard to find him. We're challenged to lean in and trust him, even when it's hard to understand what he's doing. So let's go back to the story we started with. Jesus, Mark chapter 14, because we know how the story ends. And because of that, these next few words are so significant. But for the disciples, it was almost as if they completely lost the significance because of the darkness of the situation. Look at this, verse 22. While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take it, this is my body." Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many," he said to them. Right, Jesus is foreshadowing the event that will be celebrated for the next 2,000 years plus, depending on how long it is until he returns. It's this worldwide movement that gets launched right here. God is making his move on behalf of the whole world. Everything is changing, but everything for the disciples seems to be moving backwards and seems to be going dark. And so they leave that room and they go on a walk. Like many of you have in the midst of coronavirus, you've left your house and you've gone on a walk because you've got to get outside and get some fresh air. So Jesus takes his friends, his disciples, and they head to a garden. But while they're there, Jesus tells them basically, hey guys, it's going to get worse. Verse 27, he says, "You will all fall away." Jesus told them, "For it is written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered." Verse 28, "But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Come on, now he's referring to the event, y'all, that will literally change everything. He's talking about the resurrection. He's talking about Easter. He's talking about new life. He's talking about hope dawning in the world. But for the disciples in this moment, man, this moment was so dark. It was so dark that they couldn't see or find hope. So come on, here's the question. Here's the question I think we all have to answer right now in this season. In the middle of such personal uncertainty, in the middle of national uncertainty, all of the conversation, when are we going to be able to reopen? What about the economy? What about our, are we ever going to go back to normal? Is this going to be one of those moments like before and after? What about the uncertainty of my physical health? Man, there's so many of us. You go to the store, everybody's got masks on. You don't know who's infected and who's not. And it's all of this uncertainty. So in the middle of all of the uncertainty, here's the question we've got to answer. Is it possible that God is still active even when there seems to be an absence of his activity? Come on, that's the question. We've got to wrestle this question down. Is it possible that God is still active? He's still accomplishing his purposes. He's still moving, even when there seems to be an absence of his activity. Come on, we can say it a different way. Is it possible that God is still active in your world, even when there seems to be an absence of his activity? And your answer to that question, and my answer to that question, it's going to determine how we respond to this season of uncertainty. You know, I think if we interviewed the disciples, I think if we had the opportunity to sit down with Peter or John and just ask them and say, hey, Peter, tell me about the darkest hours of your life. John, tell me about that. Tell me about the time where it all seemed hopeless. Nathaniel, would you tell us about the time when you were most stressed out, most uncertain? I think every one of them would say, y'all, it was this time right here when we were walking with Jesus in that garden and they came to arrest him. Man, the darkest time of my entire life, it was those hours right there. But then if we followed it up and said, well, Why don't you tell us about the time when you felt like God was accomplishing his greatest work? Andrew, tell us about the time where God was growing your faith the most. James, tell us when it felt like God was supercharging your maturity. And I think they would all agree it was the same hours. It was the beginning of 3 days of despair for the disciples, but it was also the heart of God's plan for redeeming the whole world. So, here's the takeaway. Here's the one thing I want you to remember. If you don't remember anything else in today's message, this is the one thing you need to write down and put it on your refrigerator. When life is uncertain, God is not. When life is uncertain, God is not. In fact, he's still got the whole world in his hands. And when we can see that God is working through, that he's working in all of the undesirable circumstances. Listen, even the circumstances that we bring on ourselves. I'm not saying that we brought coronavirus on ourselves. I'm not trying to say that, okay? But there are times, you might be watching this at a later time, 2 years, 3 years from now. Even the undesirable circumstances that we bring on ourselves, if we can see that God is working in the midst of all of that, there comes this sense of purpose, y'all. There comes this sense of peace that passes our ability to understand. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, Pastor Josh, that sounds great, bro. Like that's a really good word, but that's not going to get me a new job. You don't understand. I had to file unemployment last week, and man, I can hold on to that word, and that sounds really great, but how's that gonna pay my bills? Or you might be saying, like, how's that gonna keep me from getting sick? I'm an essential worker. I'm right on the front lines. How's that gonna keep me from getting COVID-19? How's that gonna restore my 401k? I don't have enough years left working to bring it back up. What are we gonna do now? Well, the first thing I would say is like, hey, it actually might work, right? Like we believe in a God who is a healer, a restorer, a provider, a protector. And God has done some amazing things in this season. But also, even if it doesn't go like you hoped it goes, even if it doesn't go like you hope it will go, if you will lean in and you will trust in the middle of the uncertainty, it will allow you to maintain hope and faith. And when you do that, when you hold on and trust and lean in, it'll let you go to bed at night with the confidence that God has not forgotten you, that God has not abandoned you, and it will motivate you to keep your eyes open. To look for moments of his grace breaking through and intervening in your life. If you will lean in to him and to your faith, it'll keep you from leaning in directions that's only going to make things worse. If you will trust and let your faith grow, it'll protect you from despair and hopelessness and fear. Because remember, when life is uncertain, God is not. He's still got the whole world in his hands. As we wrap up this morning, I want to close with this because I get it, man. I know what you're saying again. You're like, hey, that's really easy to say, but it's another thing to live. And you know what? You're right. It's easy for me to say. So I'm gonna let somebody else have the final words in this message. Somebody who's gone through some stuff, and he wrote 2 different passages that I think are really important for us to look at right now. The first one comes in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 through 27. This is the Apostle Paul writing to us, and here's what he says. He says, I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. He says, 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I've been shipwrecked, and I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled, and I have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst, and I have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Man, if there's anybody that knows about uncertain times, it's Paul, right? Like it's this guy. But this same guy, after all of this, after the beatings, after the lashings, after the shipwrecks, this guy, Romans 8:28, he says, we know. Come on, y'all. Listen to Paul. He said, we know that in all things, come on, Paul, are you serious? We know that all things work together for good. All things. Paul, what about those shipwrecks? Yeah, those too. Paul, come on, Paul, you can't mean all things. Paul, what about those times you were beaten with rods? Paul, what about that time they stoned you and left you for dead? That, Paul would say, yeah. And he may say, I don't know how, and I didn't know in the moment how God was going to do it. But I can tell you, I've been through it, and I can testify that all things work together for good for those who love God, for those who are called according to his purpose. Come on, y'all. Now is not the time to lose hope. Now is not the time to give up. Now's not the time to throw in the towel. In fact, now might be the time that God is actually doing his deepest work in your life and my life. So come on, he's still got the whole world in his hands. And if we can trust him in this moment, we'll see him do something in us that we could never imagine. Let me pray for you this morning. God, we thank you for this opportunity to be here on Church Online. And I pray for each and every person who's participating with us and watching with us online on Facebook, YouTube, Church Online. I pray today, God, that they would catch a glimpse that all things work together for those who love you, God. So today, increase our love, God. Today, open our eyes to see your grace working. Let us move forward in faith and confidence that you've got the whole world in your hands. Amen. 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 Thank you so much for being here today. It's a privilege to worship with you in this virtual space called Church Online. I hope that today's message has encouraged you and been a blessing to you. I want to remind you, of course, we'd love for you, it'd mean the world to us if you would share this video on your news feed or share this with a friend. You might even want to text them the YouTube video. That's totally cool. Just we would love to get this message out to as many people as possible. If you'd like to receive prayer today, you can drop the word prayer in the comments down below, and we will we'll follow up with you to find out how we can pray for you, and maybe even if you want us to, give you a call and we'll pray for you over the phone. If you'd like to speak to a pastor today about starting a relationship with Jesus, you can drop the word Jesus in the comments below, and we will certainly connect with you to help you take those next steps. So with that, just want to remind you, this Saturday we've got our blood drive. sign up for that. Link is being posted here in just a few minutes. Also, we'd love for you to connect with us in our virtual space on one of our Zoom groups. With that, I'm going to wish y'all a happy and a great week. We'll see you either in the middle of the week on Facebook or on one of our groups, or next Sunday right here at Church Online. Y'all have a great week.